Alrighty then. We are going to pop off with some fun stuff for 2026. I have never done a live stream before on YouTube. We have done live presentations all the time to talk to people about all the different stuff that we're doing and, basically walk over how we broke down arbitrage, co-hosting, all this stuff. And I wanted to just go over and talk about, you know, starting a short-term rental business in 2026. Obviously, it's the beginning of the year. Everyone's going to be talking about how to do all the different new side hustles, what to do, how to do it, what works, what doesn't work. I'm just going to go open kimono and talk about what we're doing, what people that we're working with that are just starting off now, what they're doing that's working, things that we would do differently starting now, and basically break down how I would start and structure this whole game if we started replaying. And normally I'd have my whiteboard behind me, but I seem to have lost it. You'll have to forgive me. I am in the RV. So what does that mean? That means that my tools and resources are limited, but in the future I'll get my iPad out and we'll crank that. But I just wanted to get out there and start going over all the different stuff that I'm seeing, what's working, what's not working, and what we do differently. So let's crack off. I have my notes here. I'm going to go through them with everyone and really honestly just break down one of the biggest things. Um, it seems like doom and gloom is alive and well in the Airbnb space, especially, but short-term rentals in general. There's a lot. We're going to get the bad out of the way first. So if you are on the bubble and thinking about doing short-term rentals, this will be your cautionary tale. And if you decide to stick past this, then we'll go into what to do. So here's what is happening. It seems like there's an affront against the professional host from Airbnb with the new increase to 15.5% from Airbnb for people that are using property management software. That hits. It was 3.5, now it's 15.5. So we got an extra 12% tacked on. What does that actually mean? It just means that you change your prices and adjust for that, and it really has no effect to the end user, the guest. They don't notice the difference. The only difference is Airbnb can claim they're not charging the guest fees, and they push us that responsibility of increasing our prices to make up for the difference. So yes, that is, there's been a lot of churn about that. There's been a lot of churn about regulations. So many regulations since we first, really started looking at this and popping up in different places. And the more we help other people in other markets, the more we are learning that even in markets where there are no regulations, there's like these shadow governances of wise elders that hate the concept of young people making money. Uh, kind of joking, but not really in some places, especially in and around some parts of Tampa, as I've been discovering. But here's the deal with all that, the regulations, people cracking down on short-term rentals, with Airbnb increasing their percentages for people that are using property management software, which you have to use if you're doing short-term rental. You just can't only use Airbnb. I will say this: we're still making profit. You can make profit. It just changes, tweaks slightly what you have to do when you first start. So let's dive in if you're still with me after all that horrifying stuff. Um, I'll get one more disclaimer. It is not like it was even before we started. We didn't get the luxury of starting in this era, or maybe we just got the tail end of it. But people, when Airbnb first started popping off, the Airbnb boom, anyone could throw a crappy listing up on Airbnb, and it would just make money like that. It would just rack in the dough. That is no longer the case. You have to be deliberate about what you're doing, treat it like a business, be professional, and make it stand out and make it pop and pizzazz and all the marketing and all the copywriting and the pictures and the hero photo. And then once you get that, the pricing has to be on point. And then once you get that, the messaging has to be on point and the guest experience has to be on point from the time they come across your listing all the way to the time they leave the review and you review their review. Everything has to be on point, and you have to understand that you just can't rely on the OTAs, the online travel agencies. You can't rely on the Airbnb, VRBO, Booking.com to take care of you. You have to start thinking for yourself and the long term game, which is obviously everyone talks about it, direct booking. You got to think about getting yourself to a direct booking place where people are coming and they're booking with you directly and they're not booking with Airbnb, VRBO, Booking.com. All that stuff is great. Those websites are good, and we use them, and we'll continue to use them, and we use more OTAs. But the deal is, you got to look at those as what they are. They're marketing. They're your marketing, and they're your marketing agency. So Airbnb, the biggest one, we'll just say instead of you paying to run ads to your local business, which would be this short-term rental. So let's say you have Billy's, Buck Wild Rentals in the foothills of the Smokies in Tennessee, and you have like 4 cabins, and you're like, man, I love it. And if Airbnb didn't exist, and before all these online travel agencies existed, what you would have to do is run advertisements to that listing, and you put it out in the papers. You get spots in travel magazines, and as the internet age evolved, you could run Facebook ads, local Facebook ads. You can run local Google ads to your rental. So when people typed in rental in Tennessee, they found you. Well, Airbnb, VRBO, Booking.com is essentially like that. They are marketing. They have billions of dollars in marketing, way more than you ever will, to send people and traffic your way. It's your job to capitalize on your listing to make sure that Airbnb boosts your listing and shows it on their algorithm so people can see it. But think of the 15.5% as what you pay a ad agency to run ads for you. That's what it is. Now, here's the deal. Where people mess up is they run Airbnb and people have a great experience and like, hey, come back again and blah blah blah, and they come back and they book again on Airbnb. No, no. What you need to do is use all these booking platforms. Airbnb, VRBO, Booking.com are the big three, but there's so many more, so many more. You got there's ones for everything that you could think about, and I could list off hundreds. And if you want to go deep dive on that, you can ask any questions you want. But you use those, they come in the first time, and then when they message you, you say, hey, hope you had fun. If you want our best rates possible, rebook through this link through us directly, and we can give you like a 15%, 20% discount, whatever you want to do for them. And what that does is they get your direct booking link, and then the online travel agencies bring them to you the first time. You get them, you get their stuff, you talk to them, and then you bring them back for the second, third time for the word of mouth. You offer referrals, whatever you want to do. That's the business side. You figure that out. But you use these online travel agencies to get people to come into your property, and then you interact with them and you get them to come back and you get their friends to come back to you directly. So, doom and gloom is aside. Now we can just talk, hey, 2026, what is working now? And I could tell you, oh, this is what we would do if we started over. I honestly, I hate that because it's like, yeah, great, but you're not starting over, and it would be different and all this other stuff. So what I am going to tell you, which I think will be a little more valuable, is what we're recommending to people that we work with that is working, that have started, that are new, that don't have the the dozens of profiles to leverage to get new co-host deals or to have inquiries come, all that stuff. I'll just give you from people that have no experience in short-term rental that are getting their first or second unit, what's working, and how to structure the whole thing from the starting of the business all the way to getting that first listing, all the way to scaling. And I think that is where I will probably cap it today, is starting that business with the end in mind. And we'll talk about what the different end options are, but I'll talk about what I think when I think if you're going to get into this game, what the end could be. And then we'll reverse engineer it to how anyone could start. And I'm going to talk to me when we first started this, a busy dad working a full-time job that didn't have a bunch of excess time, didn't have 40 hours a week during the day to throw at this, and didn't have hundreds of thousands of dollars for a down payment. Now, if you have those things, you can really start cooking with gas. But if you don't, you can still start. And I think starting is the key. Getting that momentum going, getting that first deal done, seeing the proof of concept of the business working and it have this minimum viable product of you are cash flowing every month. And even if you're cash flowing $1,000, even if you put in a bunch of work and you're cash flowing $1,000, the economics of scale hold true. You can get 5 more units and you can put in slightly less work each time because you have systems around it. And then you get 5,000 a month. And then guess what? You do that another 5 times, you get 10,000 a month. Now you can replace your job, live below your means, and make a little extra money and invest and all that stuff, all that crazy stuff. But rewind. Let's start at the beginning. Okay. Ten minutes in. I'm going to put this up here because I don't trust it. The buttons on the screen, I don't believe them. They're like barely moving. I want them to move a little more. I want to know that people are hearing me the right way. God bless America. All right. So let's begin. Just starting. You are just starting off, and you're like, hey, what do I do? Well, the first step is actually having the business. So, you need to have a business in place to have a business. So, super simple. People get wrapped around the axle, spend months doing this. Do not spend months doing this. Spend minutes. You need a business, an LLC. Okay, easy. Go on LegalZoom, spend 10 minutes. Pick the middle package option. That's not super crazy, but also get someone to help you. It's that's probably where they want you to end up anyway. And you get that, you spend like a couple $100 and you get the LLC formed. What do I name the LLC? Do not, do not, do not spend any more than 10 minutes thinking about this. One, you can always change it. Two, does it really matter? No. No one will know about your business name. No one cares about your business name. My recommendation, make it so that when someone sees it, they can easily read it, easily say it, and it is instantly triggering a thought in their mind that this is a short-term rental business. So, Billy's Buck Wild Cabins, maybe I wouldn't name it that, but maybe I would name it like, Smoky Mountain Stays or Smoky Mountain Retreats or Smoky Mountain Cabins. That way, when you do go direct booking or you do see or people see it whatever or online through SEO or whatever the case, they're like, oh, this is a place where you rent cabins in the Smoky Mountains. Don't be creative and cute and be like, Billie Jean's Not My Girl Enterprises because you like the song, or don't have the ego and you need to put your name in it because it's your business and it's your baby. It's not necessary. Don't put your name in it. Don't make it cute. Don't make it clever. Make it simple, clear, short-term rental business. Spend 10 minutes on it. Use AI if you're stuck. AI will figure it out for you. I promise. Same thing with the logo. Super simple logo, not fancy. Probably have a house in there, or a house with the smoke for the cabin. We're gonna stick with Billy's Tennessee option. Sorry, Billy. We're using you as an example. So you have your LLC picked. You know that you have your name, your LLC, it's all that. You spent 2 minutes on LegalZoom and you got that going. Great. You have all that and all that to say, what's next? Well, you filled out your thing with LegalZoom. You got the name, you got the business, all that stuff. You're going to wait like 2 or 3 days to get your EIN. You're going to get your EIN, which you need, and you're going to open up a business bank account. We recommend Relay. Relay is a great, great, great bank for short-term rentals because there's so many perks. You can break it down. You can have all these sub-accounts. It works really well when you start getting into co-hosting, but it works very well with like the profit first method of banking, which we like. And it really pairs well nicely with short-term rentals. I will leave a link to Relay below, and feel free to use it. And to be honest, we've used it now for almost 5 years. I loved it. I haven't had zero issues. They've been super responsive, and it's a great business banking account. So you have that. Next thing, get a business line of credit, get a credit card, be able to get furniture. All you need to start this is a little bit of cash and some credit card swipes for furniture and little upfront expenses. So if you have like 4 or 5K, or you can get or borrow 4 or 5K, and you have your credit card, and you can, put some money on that. In most markets, you can find a property, you can get into it, you can start renting, and you can start cash flowing that first month. Now, it's going to take you maybe 3 months to get your investment back fully, but as long as you're cash flowing and it's looking like you're going to get your investment back, that's fine. You're trending well, build the business credit. Great. So you have all that business stuff set up. Congratulations, you're now the CEO of your business. That's awesome. What is the next step? The next step, this phase, arguably the most important, you're going to do an intense amount of market research to find where you're going to get this property. Now, when we say operate with the end in mind, I think, what do I want this business to do for me one day? One day, I want to own properties. I want to leverage that for taxes. I want to, build equity, other ways, all that stuff, whilst cash flowing. That's great. To get to that step, the first thing you need to do, right? We'll reverse engineer it. You want to buy properties, you need a bunch of money. How do you get a bunch of money? You build up a bunch of cash with cash flow. How do you get the cash flow? You get a bunch of properties. What's the fastest way to get properties? Well, we found co-hosting is the fastest way to scale your portfolio. How do you co-host? You get a portfolio that looks attractive, and you perform well with your listing. How do you get that? Well, it all starts with getting one listing. You get one listing and you crush it and you knock it out of the park. And now you have a business card that you can show other hosts. So all it begins with one listing. And how did we start? We started with arbitrage. And I'll break down how the arbitrage thing works, how we did it, and how even today you can still do it, but you have two kind of paths. Three-ish, but the third is kind of the same to the second. There are three ways that you can start this if you don't have money to buy a property. If you have the money and you want to buy a property right away, you can do that and that'll work just fine. If you're like, hey, I am strapped and I can't do that, okay, great. What you can do are these three. So you need to get a property. Arbitrage, that's how we started. Would we start that way again today? I think so. I'm biased, but I think so because of the other options, it gives you the most control to react to your property the way it is, run it the way you want it, get that 5-star reviews, stack them up, get the guests, make the money. The risk there is you have to rent the property. You have to buy the furniture. Now, the other options are variants of co-hosting. So they're both co-hosting. One is finding another existing Airbnb host and co-hosting through them. The other is finding people that are renting long-term and convince them to go in and start an Airbnb listing and you do it for them. It's hard to do that first for your first listing because you don't have any wasta. You don't have any, people can't look and be like, oh, look at them. This is what they've done. Here's what they do. You have to basically, explain why, hey, I've never done this before, but it'd be a good fit for you. If you're going to go that route, and I'll do a brief diatribe on this because some people, if you really have absolutely no money to front up to do this, and you're like, I want to hustle, and you can hustle really hard, you will still probably have to come out of pocket a few $100 for some software. But you can start by looking at properties that are on Craigslist, Hotpad, Zillow, all the stuff that have been sitting for long-term tenants for like 30 plus days. So they're trying to rent it. No one's renting. You come in and you find them and you say, hey, your property has been rented. It's not rented, blah, blah. Have you considered running it as a short-term rental? Oh, no. And then you go through that whole thing. You get them to talk to you about it. And then you offer to run it as a short-term rental. Now, you can say, hey, this is what I do. I've been studying this. I've been researching this. We're going to take it. We're going to list it on all these platforms. We're going to get you, this is how much revenue you stand to make with a long term. This is how much more you'd stand to make with a short term. I want to do all this. I'm going to do it all for you. It's going to be completely hands off for you. You're not going to have to do anything. All you're going to have to do is buy the furniture, or maybe you talk to them about splitting the furniture, or maybe that he buys it and you buy it back over time with your share, whatever kind of deal you want to work. And then you're going to get, hey, X amount of profit, I'm going to get X amount of profit, or just do a split from the revenue. Hey, you're going to get X amount of revenue, I'll get X amount of revenue, percentage point from what the unit brings in. Now, if they're like, you've never done this before, why would I with you, blah, 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 all that stuff. This would be my approach. this is what I personally would do. And this is what I tell people that have no money but still want to start, how to break in and how to do it. You reach out to the person, and this is the same thing you do for co-hosting. If for someone that already has an existing listing, I'll break down how to do that, the nuances there. But for these people that don't, I would say, hey, I will come in, I will do all this stuff, we'll get up, we'll get it going, and you don't have to pay me anything for the first month. You pay me nothing. You see what happens, you see what I can bring in, and then it can be the first month, it can be the first 2 months. You pick however attractive you want to make this offer, but you basically say, I'll work for free for this amount of time. And then once it's up and running, once it's making you money, and you can see how much money, and you see the value I bring, then we can talk about a contract and me doing a more permanent, you know, whatever the case may be, a permanent deal with you on managing that property. That is how I would do it if you're finding a new person and they're like, well, you're new. Same with a co-host of an existing Airbnb property. If you find a property that's not performing well and you want to come in and revamp all that stuff, they're gonna be like, I'm a host, you're not a host. You're not, how are you gonna come in and help me? You put your ego aside and say, you're right. I'd like to have the opportunity to prove to you how I can help. Here is everything I'm willing to do. Here are the deficiencies. I've been studying Airbnb. I've been doing research, all this stuff. Here's what I see here in your listing. This can be improved. That can be improved. That can be improved. Hey, you're not doing smart pricing, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we could do that here. And then be like, is there anything else that you wish could be done with your property or that someone could do and not you? Oh, yeah, I really hate messaging, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'll do all that stuff for free. And then when the month's over, you tell me if you want to continue. And honestly, when we co-host for people, we co-host anywhere from 20 to 30%. Now, when you start for your first deal ever, just getting a win is getting a win. If someone says, hey, can you do all this stuff for 10%? Maybe you take it. Maybe you take it. I'll do 10% for 6 months. And then at the 6 month mark, hey, we're going to need to come up a little bit because I'm paying for software or whatever, but I want to show you that I can do it. Think about that genuinely when you craft your deal. That is how you'd approach it with no money. Now, the drawbacks for that is you're potentially not going to get the listing. It's not going to be in your name. It could be in their name. You're not going to get the superhost status. You're not going to get the personal reviews, which you can use to grow your profile faster. But that's why we'll rewind back, go to arbitrage. That's why I like arbitrage. A little more money up front, a little more money, some credit, but you have all the control and you get the reviews and you can leverage that to get co-hosting. And what we did, and I'll break it down, is we got the arbitrage deal, we knocked it out of the park. We reached out to people for co-hosting deals, but also people started reaching out to us because we were performing really well in our market, and they still are to this day. So, arbitrage. Very simple breakdown of arbitrage. I know this is dry, but hey, hang in there with me. Arbitrage. You pay rent to get a lease at someone's property. They give it to you. You turn around, furnish the property, and then you sublet it on platforms like Airbnb and VRBO and Booking.com. And what does that do? Well, you almost always, if you do it right, can make more money than the long-term rent is when you rent it out, broken down, and you arbitrage it. That is the doctrinally what arbitrage is. You take something big, you buy something big in bulk, you break it down to smaller pieces, you redistribute at a markup to make more money. So, how do we begin this process? I recommend looking at a place that's a 90-minute drive. Draw a circle around where you live. Boop, make it 90 minutes. You want to have places where you have leverage, and you have leverage where you have access, where you know people, where you have relationships, networks, and intimate knowledge of the area. So draw a 90-minute drive circle around where you live. And I promise you, with the exception of a few people in a few regions, you can find a place that will do well as a short-term rental. It might not be conventionally what you think with tourism. It might be business travelers. It might be traveling nurses. It might be medical tourism, which is a thing. It might be, you might get government contracts or government workers that come in. There are different people coming into different areas all the time. And there are also just family members that come to visit other family members. Now, if you live in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the country, and you're like, hey, this town has 500 people in it, and there's no Airbnbs and blah, 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 and 90 minutes away, the biggest town's like 2,000 people. Okay. At that point, I say, look at your network. what family members, what really close friends do you have that live in areas where it could work? Leverage them as a proxy for you. But we draw that circle. We find where we have the most knowledge, the most, relationships, networks in that area. And then we just look and see, does this place have like 75 Airbnb listings live? If the answer is yes, then it is probably a good enough Airbnb and short-term rental ecosystem to support you. There will be cleaners. There will be people that understand the business in that area. And there is enough demand that you can go there. So we then look, and this is where it gets fun. A lot of research. Look at all the listings that exist. Look at how many people are going there. Use tools like we use AirDNA. I'll link that below to see, hey, what are people doing in this area? You look at Google. You see what is the tourism index? Where are people going? Why are they going there? What are they doing? How long are they staying? What's the demographic of people that are going? You get all this data, and with that, you say, hey, cool. In my market on the map here, I like this area. In this area, there's like 5 little submarkets, and you just Google best 5 submarkets for short-term rentals in this market. And it's going to tell you a list of like 10, and you're going to pick the 5 that you know the best, and you know the area, you're very familiar with it. You know all the cool little tricks and tips of where to go and what to do. You know about the pop-up concerts. It's near the sports stadium where the concerts happen, all that stuff. These are the knowledge you got to use. You pick 5 markets, you look in, and you really deep dive those. And in those 5 markets and those submarkets, you find the high ground. You find the place in that submarket where the most popping off listings are, where the best client goes, and you try and get a property as close to that. Now, once you have those markets picked out, I'm going to keep this part very simple. I'm not going to go into pitching landlords, all that stuff, because all the training I would go over, everything I could tell you about, you'd learn more just calling the landlords. So I'll take a page out of Alex Ramos's book, and I would recommend calling 100 landlords or contacting 100 landlords a day, asking them to rent their property for arbitrage. In our school community, we have a whole thing about how to pitch landlords, all that stuff. But really, you'll just get better the more you do it. So do that until you get a deal. Once you get a deal, do the due diligence. I like to aim for 2 to 2.5 times the rent for projected revenue. So I want the projected revenue of the property to be 2 to 2.5 times the rent. I use AirDNA, Google, AI, Rabu, and a few other things, and I corroborate all of them together to make sure I'm not getting wazoo numbers from one software. And we use an estimation, and we look at comps on Airbnb to see, will that do that? So we do that. And then once you have that, you got the property. Congratulations, you have their first Airbnb. I know I blasted through that. It is what it is. Now, next up, what do we got? We got a property now. We gotta get that furnished, get that listed as soon as possible, because if you don't, you're just wasting money. So you're gonna get it. You're gonna design it. Make sure the design pops. Look at the best Airbnbs in your area. Look what they're doing. Copy what's working. Put a little tweak on it. Make sure that it's bright, it's colorful, it's inviting. You have cool amenities, the best amenities that you can possibly do on the budget that you have. Pack that in there. Get professional photos. Get your cleaner in there. Put it on Airbnb and all the other Booking.com, VRBO. Get it all listed. Make sure the copywriting is good. Make sure the pictures are good, that there's labels. Make sure that you got a pricing software in there for revenue management, and you do a lot of deep diving on revenue management. And I'm going over the broad strokes because this could be a 10-hour thing if I go over it, every little thing, which maybe I'll do, but it's not going to be today. Today is just the broad strokes. So you get that up, you get it listed, you get it live, and you get people coming in. Wonderful. You'll hit launch and you're live and you get people coming in. And now I'm going to go zoom out a little bit for the macro deal here. So it's 2026. What's different? Well, the difference is people are more wary of that. So you're going to have to get really good with your pitch. You're going to have to get really good with what you show them up front, and you're going to have to get good at creating deals. It's a little bit harder. What we see that works and what people are doing now that works is they're finding places that are sitting a little bit longer and not renting out as conventional long-term tenants. Okay, cool. That's in 2026. That is what I would do. I would really leverage people that need their place to be rented out. You might not, that might not be novel to some of you, but that's just what we're seeing that's working the best right now. And also, money talks. So if you can cut people into revenue splits with you, I'm sure they'd be willing to do that, or make your offer more attractive. As long as the math is working out from the projected revenue of the rent, then send it. Get the deal going. It's about getting that deal up. So you get up and running, you get all your systems set up, and you launch the Airbnb. So here we are, 30 minutes in. We're now Airbnb launched. You have automate the messages, so you don't have to keep repeating the same messages to the guests, but you make sure every guest what they have. They get an amazing experience. You're very communicative in the good way. You're not over communicative, but you're saying all that stuff. You're letting them know your business runs on reviews. Hey, we really appreciate it. If there's anything bad that happened, let me know privately so I can correct it. But our business does run on 5-star reviews. Blah blah blah. All that stuff. You deliver amazing customer service to your guests. And I promise you, if you deliver amazing customer service, like every guest is what hinges on you having a successful business or not, you will be successful. And then you'll get a super host in like 3 months, probably 3 months or less. And once you have the super host, you now have a property. That's a super host. Probably have like a 4.99 review for the listing, and you can now reach out to other co-hosts. Sorry, you can reach out to other hosts and say, "Hey, here's my property. I've been doing this. I'm a super host." And if they're not a super host, you leverage that, and guess what? You can now start scaling like crazy. When I say like crazy, I mean when we started doing the co-host thing, we went from like 3 units, there were 3 arbitrage units, all the way to 14 in like a few months. I'm not exaggerating. It was that much. So what do you need to do? The biggest thing is Airbnb referring hosts to you through their co-host. I call it co-host Tinder, whatever Airbnb calls it. That's been the best thing for us. It's because guests are coming and hosts are coming in, they're looking to have people help them, and they look at properties that are doing well. So if you can't get on that, what I would recommend is going on Airbnb, and this is a little side quest for you. Look up skip tracing, skip trace the hosts that you think you could help and genuinely help improve their listing. Reach out to them and tell them, hey, I came across your listing. My team gave me your contact. I wanted to reach out and see if I could potentially, help you with your listing. Is there anything, blah, blah, whatever you want to do, come up with whatever pitch you want. But once again, we're going to go back. If you want to scale, first thing you do every day, contact 100 hosts and offer your services. And once you start doing that, it kind of starts to snowball. You start developing all these systems that, like I said, the economics of scale tend to work out pretty well. Co-host is nice because it's not any cost of your pocket except for some, software, which you can bake into the co-hosting contract. And then you just get more units. And maybe you get another arbitrage unit. Maybe you get arbitrage and co-host. And you just keep doing that until your systems are tight. You know your book's cold. You know what you're making. Your profits, I like to shoot for 30% with short-term rentals. If anyone out there differs and thinks you can get a lot more, let me know. Arbitrage, I see around 30%. Co-hosting can be a lot more because you don't have any upfront expenses. But our business as a whole operates close to 30% profit margins. So, or it does now. In the beginning, it was like 10 to 15%. So that would be a goal to shoot for. And I'm sure other people that have been doing it longer say you can get more. That's fine. But if you shoot for that, I think you'll be happy with the amount of money you can generate for yourself. And we can break down baking and what we do with some of that. We reinvest a lot of it into different things for our business. So that is why the margins are where they are, for us at least. You do that, you build up enough capital, and eventually you're like, oh my God, I'm getting taxed in a higher tax bracket now because of all this stuff. That's when you can buy a property and use the big beautiful bill, the 100%, right? Do a cost like analysis, do the 100% depreciation year one, that whole thing. I'm not going to talk about that right now because that is a little bit into the future. But that's what I would do in 2026. So thank you guys. Let me know if this was useful, and I can go deeper in. I can go wider out. I can answer questions. But yeah, this is just a general breakdown for 2026. What I would do, and what I would do is start the business. Just start and adapt. That's what I would do. That's what we're telling people to do. Because if you're looking for the perfect business, I got news for you. It doesn't exist. And I don't know a lot about a lot of businesses, but I do know a lot about short term rentals. And there are ways to make money from it. There have been long before Airbnb. There will be after Airbnb gets dethroned by other online travel agencies in the future. There will always be ways to make money from rental properties because guess what? People want to go on vacation. So just about figuring out where to get your edge and your angle. So take it easy. Look forward to doing this again, and we'll look forward to the comments to see what topics to go over. Cheers.